Hello, 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 everyone. This is Louise Hicks, your host of Aim to Purpose Spiritual Empowerment Hour. And I'm coming today with two special guests, Minister Fred Shaw, who has been on my show multiple times. He's been on panels multiple times. And I have a new guest who has not been on my show. Her name is LilyBell. And we're coming to you from California, Georgia, and Texas. I'm in Texas, and Lily is in Georgia, Lily Bell, and Fred in California. And we're going to have a great show today because we're going to be talking about part four of my series that I started as a result of a video that I saw. And this video just made me start to think about what was in it. And I said, I got to do a series on this. And this part four today is Black Love, Gender War by Design and Conquer Peel. And the subtopic today that we're going to talk about is divine love and unity. And with that said, I want to wish everyone out here a happy Father's Day. This is a special edition today, and I want to wish all a happy Father's Day. And of course, we should live each day as Father's Day and honoring your father, as I believe we should all be doing. Fathers should honor their children too and respect their children. So, with that said, let's get started. And we're going to have an introduction from our guest briefly before we really get into the video. So, Lily Bell, can you briefly introduce yourself and tell us who you are?
Hi, how's everybody doing? I'm Lily Bell. I'm currently in Georgia, and my thing is, I was trying to be brief. I can talk forever. Just trying to. Okay, I guess what you say. I'm the type of person who I'm trying to encourage us to be independent thinkers, or encourage us to look beyond what's going on and see the hidden hand. Because America has shown us a green oasis, but actually there's nothing there but sand. So that's who I am, Lily Bell.
All right, Lily Bell, thank you. And I met Lily Bell on social media because we were so in alignment with our thought processes and our mindset about elevating our people to a higher level of consciousness. So, by all means, subscribe to my channel, give it a thumbs up, give it a like, and leave your comments because we put this information out here for you to be able to glean from it something that will benefit our community as Blacks. And that's why I started this channel, I guess about 2 years ago, that came out of my previous radio show, Aim to Purpose, the radio show with my son, Kenan Mason, who now has his own show, The Kinetic Hour. And I coin myself and I tell everybody I'm this mad Black woman. And that means motivated and determined to help and support our people to a higher level of consciousness. And with that said, we're going to have Minister Shaw because I know many of you who are my already subscribers, you know him, but there are new people coming in. So, Minister Shaw, tell us about yourself.
I'm Reverend Frederick Shaw. I'm the president of the Inglewood South Bay NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People in Inglewood, California. I cover Inglewood South Bay area. I'm also the international spokesperson and the director of public affairs for the Citizens Commission on Human Rights. And this is a mental health watchdog organization that exposes psychiatric abuses. And when we say psychiatric abuses, we're talking about the mass drugging of children with these psychotropic drugs. We're talking about the drugging of children from 0 to 5 years of age. We're talking about electroshocking pregnant women. These are the type of things that we look at as abuse, and we investigate, we expose them. And that organization has actually closed more mental hospitals and put more psychiatrists in jail than any other group on planet Earth. So if you've listened to past shows, you know that we go into this quite deeply, and we have put the challenge out there for psychiatrists and anybody to come on and oppose me. We know they won't, but we open that invitation to do that. Outside of that, I'm an author, father on Father's Day, got 7 grandchildren, 3 great-grandchildren, and 3 children. So it's a happy day for me.
Great, great, great. And a special happy Father's Day to you, Minister Fred Shaw. And thank you for taking time out of your Father's Day to come in and share with myself and LilyBell. And I'd also like to give a special shout out to this task force because I'm a member of it that you just discussed. And here is my certificate to approve it to the Citizens Commission on Human Rights International's Task Force Against Racism and Modern Day Eugenics. And I'd like to give a special shout out to all the members of this task force because we need organizations like that to help to elevate and support us. And with that said, again, our show today is a part 4 of this series that I started, and it is Black Love, Gender War by Design and Conquer Pill. But today's special topic is divine love and unity. And this is the final part to this 4-part series on Black Love, Gender War. And with that said, we're going to share this video that propelled me into starting this particular series. So let me share it, and we'll be stopping throughout it because I want my guests to share their thoughts as we go along. Okay, and here we go. So just flag me with your hand, and I will stop when you want me to stop, and we can get into a conversation. Here we go.
I got this idea to tell you that you need to do your research, and if you're dating a black man, it is your responsibility to understand the history and the trauma of slavery.
And you as a black man, what?
You're literally telling me that you had a class that was dedicated to black men, where black women have an opportunity to study their men, understand what they're going through, understand how to relate to them better. And instead of us doing that, you have other women of other ethnic groups, other races going in, taking note, using.
Okay, LilyBell, you have something to say. So let's stop the share for a moment here. And we're going to bring you on. Minister Fred, you look like you're kind of upside down there.
Okay, I'm back. I'm gonna switch to the other one. Okay, there you go.
Okay. Go ahead, LilyBell. You wanted to
Okay,
bring
well,
something out.
where from the opening and stuff, what I noticed now, that black man seemed to not have a problem. As a matter of fact, he seemed to be excited that he was being treated like an animal, a slave, if you will. Because when she took him, yanked him, pulled him in and pulled him down, I mean, he readily came. If I, a black woman, would have done that, that would have been a problem because, see, I would have been the angry black woman. I just want to say that for right now, and I'll come back later on with some other things.
Oh, good, because I do want to discuss that because that came out in my first part 1 about this angry black woman problem with some black men. So, Minister Shaw, go for it.
I just want to say, and I might have missed it, I may be a little wrong, but it seems to me when she tells them to do their research, I took it as if she was talking to white women. I didn't take it as if she was talking to black women. And maybe that I might be seeing it a little different. I don't know if you want to are capable of rerunning it, but she cannot be talking to black women because why would you tell black women to research something that they know firsthand?
Yes.
So I think as a white woman, she's talking to white women that if you have a black man, do your research, because then you can find out about slavery, trauma, whatever it is, because the black woman already knows that.
And
Just
thank you for saying that, because when I first saw that, I felt the same way. I said, who this woman can't be talking to us as black women, as much as black women have gone through more than any female on planet Earth. Black women have gone through all kinds of trauma. And we will get into, I've gotten into that on part 1, 2, and 3 of this series on Black love, gender war by design, and the conquer pill. So I agree 100% with you. Any further elaboration on that? What are your thoughts on that, LilyBell? What Minister Shaw just said, because she has to be talking, I'm thinking, to white women, not us as black women.
Well, when I watched it, when I took notes, that's one of the notes I took. I said, I don't need anyone to tell me about black men. I know about black men because I'm a black woman. And also, the guy, no disrespect, can't remember his name, he actually did the class. Who did he design the class for? He could not have designed the class for black women in the first place. So anything we said in that class, he would have taken offense because he didn't want us there in the first place. Because if you notice, he said that it started out with a lot of black women where I'm sure in his mind, probably he's thinking, well, I got to get these women out of here because I want me a white woman and I want to teach my brothers how to get a white woman. I yield.
Yeah, that could have been his mindset. But let me tell you who he is, because I always try and make sure that I do as much research as I can when I bring in a video of someone else's. And he is a PhD professor at Fresno State University, um, Dr. Hassan Johnson. And he's over the, I'm not sure whether he's over the Black Studies or he teaches a course in Black Studies, but he is a professor at Fresno State University out of California. But that's in Northern California, because I'm from Southern California. Even though I'm in Texas, I have lived in California all my life practically. So I know quite a bit about California because I've been there all my life and moved to Texas more recently. So that's who he is, Dr. Hassan. I can't remember his first name. Johnson, a PhD over in Black Studies at Fresno State University. So, you guys want to continue, or did you need me to rewind, Minister Shaw?
No, I think we hit it on the head. I think she was talking to white women. I don't think she would dare have the guts to talk to black women like that, like she knows more about black people than black people do. And I do know that there are some whites who think that, but the smart ones don't. And so we can keep moving.
I agree with you. And some want to tell our narratives, but they don't want us to tell their narrative. And some do, not all, but some do the same as what you just said. So we'll move forward and go back to the video and continue to carry on. Here we go.
As ammo to get the quote unquote best men out there. Yeah. So it's like, how can you compete with that? This is based upon what you just said. It's like, this is why they are winning our men. If there's one line where I heard you say one of your initial classes, one of the first classes you had, you noticed that it was predominantly non-black women who were going in there studying black men.
I started teaching a black male course because it was needed. I'm looking at these young brothers who were getting accepted, and a lot of them were, dropping out. A lot of them really didn't have any support structure on how to navigate college. So I created this class alongside a student group for black males and began to implement that. And early on, what I found was I had more Black women than men, which, you know, numerically is no surprise. That tends to be the case anyway, as far as the enrollment in school. My initial training in my doctorate was as a feminist. I hadn't dealt with gender prior to my doctorate. So I came in with that framework. The only way I knew how to deal with gender was through kind of what she taught me. So I'm teaching this Black male class using this approach I got in grad school, and I'm watching the numbers of Black males dwindle. I'm seeing the Black males in my class looking at the ground, just kind of disconnected. And I'm seeing the women more and more excited. And what I realized was that it was becoming a class where the young ladies were using me to finger wag at the men. When I started to actually ask the men what their perspectives were, and I started to kind of change the narrative. And after a couple of years, I noticed the number of Black women dropped dramatically. The number of Black males started to increase. Within the next couple of years after that, I noticed I started to get this population of white women.
Yeah.
I didn't know why they were there. And when I began to kind of ask them, you know, in the hallways, under the, you know, why are you taking this class? And I started to find, oh, well, my boyfriend is, and I want to understand him and his family, or, you know, I'm trying to date some of the men on the basketball team or football team or whatever, but I don't understand them. So they were doing research. They're getting A's. It's a weird thing where I got to give A pluses to white women in a class on Black males because they are handling all the homework assignments and reading everything to a T. They're asking me about the citations that were made by the author. I'm like, good Lord, but they were serious. And I would say, you know, another 3 or 4 years after that, I noticed the population shifted from, you know, white women to Latinas. And the Latinas were coming in with the same kind of intensity, the same kind of questions, the same motivation.
You're literally telling me that you had a class that was dedicated to Black men, where Black women have an opportunity to study their men, understand what they're going through, understand how to relate to them better. And instead of us doing that, you have other women of other ethnic groups, other races going in, taking note, using that as ammo to get the quote unquote best men out there. Yeah. So it's like, how can you compete with that? This is based upon what you just said. It's like, this is why they are winning our men. If that is such a big complaint, this is why these other women.
Okay, let me stop. And I was getting ready to stop anyhow, because I've heard some things that I wanted to elaborate on, but I'm going to let my guest go first. So,
Well,
let me stop. Go ahead, Minister Shaw.
I just want to say that we have to be very careful on how we phrase things and the way we say things. First of all, when you look at the Black male, if you watch him in sports, if you watch the physique, if you watch how through history he's been able to achieve when he was shackled down with other things, he should be desirable to every woman on the planet. I mean, if you take the greatest anything physically, is generally a Black man. If you look at the people who, like Frederick Douglass, who was a slave, who grew up to have his own printing presses and to create newspapers and things. So why wouldn't the Black man be attractive to everybody? This idea of winning the Black male, I don't know that to be true. I would like to see the research to see how many Black women are with white men, Hispanic with Black women, and each one intersecting, going through the races. Because I don't see that the white woman is winning the Black man. I just see that women are fighting for men. And it has nothing to do, in my opinion, with the, now in the 50s and the 60s, when Blacks were trying to be somebody and they felt that, to be with somebody white mean that you was special, you were acceptable, and all. That's not the case right now. These kids are with everybody. It's like who my friends are. It's not the race thing that we grew up with. They still recognize that there's a race problem. But they're not even feeling that way. And so I think we got to make sure when we say that, I know I interact with all types of people, and I see a small percentage of mixed races, and some of my good friends are mixed race. I mean, mixed marriage. So, but I don't see, when I see 100 Black couples, I don't see 50 Black white couples next to them. I see maybe 5, 3. So I don't know. Maybe I'm in the wrong circles or whatever. But I just think we got to be careful when we start saying they're winning our men. Like we got to. No, nobody can win your man. You just got to handle your man, and we can't let the cultural problems supersede the fact that when you see athletes, when you see actors and stuff, well, who is their agent? Usually white. Who is their lawyer? Usually white. So when they go to the parties and stuff, it's mainly white people there. So when he gets a chance to date the owner's daughter of one of the organizations, why wouldn't he take that opportunity? It's not just about the race, and we got to deal with some issues that are internal that makes people not necessarily. One of the most important things in my relationship with my wife, do you know we argue less than once a year? We just got this thing. You let me know what's most important to you, and I will go. I'll let you know what's most important to me, and you will go. And we just operate like, and we don't spend a lot of time fighting, you know? But I know a lot of people, that's all they spend. So, let's, when we doing this, yeah, we want to keep in mind that, we're wondering what's going on. What is this divide? And later on, I'll tell you what's really causing the divide, unless you want me to do it right now. But I know that why the divide is there. And a lot of people don't want to accept it because I don't want to overtalk right now, but let me just say this.
Well,
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
oh, I was going to say, let's hold your thought on telling us why, and let's go to LilyBell to get her thoughts on
Right.
what just went on, because I have some statistics I want to share too about Black marriages, because you hit on it, Minister Shaw. Go ahead, LilyBell, and share your thoughts. And then we're going to go back and let Minister Shaw, you're going to tell us the why, because I have the why as well, the root cause of all of this chaos.
Well, I disagree with Minister Shaw in part. I think maybe not with all of them, but with some of them, it's still the trophy woman. The white woman is still viewed as the trophy woman because some of the things you will hear Black men say that lets you know somehow they feel they don't care if she just crawled from under a car. The fact that she's a white woman, so that plays a part. And another thing that struck me when I was listening to the different things and stuff is what kind of Black man would even want to be viewed as such that somebody has to tell somebody else? That's this. I was trying to think of an adjective, but anyway, he's such that somebody's going to have to tell somebody else how to deal with him. To me, that's not a compliment. But so for you to accept that, then there must be something missing in you already. If somebody came up, using as an example that I'm going to yield, if somebody came up to me right now, even if I find out somebody was having workshops and all this about me, well, we're gonna tell you there's that LilyBell, but you're not gonna be able to just understand her. You're not gonna be able to figure out she's just too far gone. But we can have this class, and I can teach you how to. To me, that's an insult, but to each his own. And I got some more thoughts, but I'm like, Minister Shaw, I'm gonna yield for right now, but I'm taking notes. I yield.
All right. And I do understand what you're saying too, LilyBell. As a Black woman, I understand that, because what you said about the trophy, the white woman, and this is no disrespect to any ethnic group. I'm stating my perspective based on my experiences in life and growing up in the 50s and 60s, born 1951, being 73 years of age now. All we saw presented in a positive light were white women. You didn't see Black women presented in a positive light, always in a stereotypical light. And as I stated earlier, Black women have gone through so much trauma until I talk about it in my part 3. A lot of young people, Gen Xers, millennials, Gen Zs, you have no idea, some of you, because you have not done your research. And a lot of us are perishing for a lack of knowledge. So it's sad that this gender war that we are going through, and Minister Shaw is going to tell us, and I'm going to give my take on it too, because I have a reason why we're going through it as well. And I talk about that in the first 3 of these series, because a lot of these Gen X's and Gen Z's and millennials, they haven't done the research because they've come along in an era that they are seeing things that we saw in our generation, the 50s and the 60s. And you said something too, Minister Shaw, about, and you were right on this, right on target. I did some research. Because these people are in this circle in a different environment, you become pretty much a product of your environment. And I could care less who you choose to love and who you choose to marry. However, Black men and women need to stop bashing one another, because you need to know the historical background and why you're doing this. You have to go back to post-traumatic slave syndrome, lack of healing, trauma, generational trauma. And once you know the history, your history, which a lot of us don't know, and they're not going to teach it to you in the schools, you need to read some of the books by Dr. Anderson, Claude Anderson, and I always bring him up. I've met him and spoken with him, Black Labor, White Wealth, Powernomics, the Black History Reader, because there were laws put in place against Black people that some of you can't even imagine, during slavery and after slavery. But let me give you some statistics on marriage in 2021, and these are allegedly statistics by the U.S. Census Bureau. 80 out of married Black men, 85% of married Black men have a Black wife. 85%. But they're not going to tell you this information because they want to keep this war going by design. It's by design, and it came out of white supremacy to keep us divided. I tell you, a white man shared this with me because he knows the agenda to keep power over us, keep us divided by controlling us, conquering us, and killing us. And when I say killing us, that could be literally and it could be figuratively by killing your spirit and keeping this war going by design. So as stated, married Black men, 85% of Black men are married to Black women. Married Black women, 93% of Black women have Black husbands. And let me give you statistics on white spouses with Black men, about 8%. And we have over, close to 50 million Black people and about 8%. And it comes from what I believe Minister Shaw said about these athletes. And we know 70% of them are athletes. 70% of Black men are basketball or football players. And these women are coming in that this professor is teaching with an agenda because they want to get an athlete. You notice they didn't say anything about any other occupation, basketball and football, because they do make money if they are a highly successful, productive basketball, football player. And the Hispanic spouse is about 4%, I believe, and the other is about 3% of that Black men are married to. And when it comes to Black women married to white men, about 4%. And when it comes to Hispanic spouses married to women married to Hispanic women married to Black men, about 2%, and other about 1%. So that tells you that most Black men and women are married to each other, bringing about that Black family structure. And again, like I said, who you choose to love is up to you. However, we need to stop bashing one another. No other culture out here is bashing the way we do. And it's okay if you want to choose who you want to choose, but stop bashing one another. That's all I'm saying. So, Minister Shaw, go ahead. I know you wanted to further discuss, and then we'll get back to the video after LilyBell has a say.
Yeah, that was my basic point. You know, it's like, why wouldn't a white woman go for a Black man that's making $50 million a year? I mean, it's like that's a normal thing. Now it's up to him who he loves, and I'm not anybody that can tell anybody who they should love. But just like you showed in the figures, it's not that big a deal. It's big deal to our women because of the fact that they're getting men that we wish we had, that are in the limelight, and exposes that, because they're in the limelight, that they're with this person, whereas the normal individual you might not would even know. But let me tell you what the real problem is, and it's something you will rarely hear discussed. Black women go to college in greater numbers than Black males. Through the colleges is where all of these new philosophies are coming down. All of these things are being told to the women in the colleges, and then they come back and they push that into our community. Somebody says, and I'm not, please don't take this as any attack on any woman, I'm just using it as an example. Somebody says, a woman has a right to her own body. She can do what she want to do, and blah, 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 blah. That starts in the colleges. Then the Black woman takes that on, and then she incorporates what she's learned. Now, when she incorporates that, that affects her community. But she's coming with knowledge that she thinks that is superior to what's down in the streets because it's coming from academia. So therefore, it got to be right. So she pushes this agenda and don't realize that she's the only one caught out there. If you looked at all the races, it appears that the Black woman is the one that I hear saying, I don't need no man. I don't hear nobody else saying that. But it is our women saying that. Now, I'm not attacking her because some of our men, first of all, we need to make sure we get better educated. Second of all, we need to spend less time trying to chase dreams of rapping and things that degrade our community and things. So we got some systemic issues going on ourselves. However, like you keep saying, bashing each other. What do we call women? I'm just use this word, and we call them bitches. What is a bitch? A bitch is a female dog. What do dogs birth? They birth other dogs. So then the children of that woman is dogs. What do we call our men? Dogs. And we're playing that same game, that divide and conquer, up on ourselves. So I'm calling her that name. She's calling me what a female dog produces. And how do we think we're getting out of this circle? I just had the NAACP, a young man was killed here in Compton. And it made all kind of, and the mother is well known and people love her, and everybody's hurt. And they want to go down and we want to get with the sheriff and get with the mayor and see what can be done to make the streets safer. Nothing. The mayor, the sheriff, the chief of police, the National Guard, nobody can protect us from us. We have to make that mindset. So everybody makes it like, oh, well, we're going to do this and we're going to march against. Well, we march against police violence. Where's the marching against the violence that's happening in our streets that we create? And this is the same thing that we're looking at in relationships. We take on what G. Carter Woodson said, Black people are only people who will take their most prized possession, their children, and turn them over to their educator, their oppressor to educate. This is
Yes.
what's happening to us. And so, and I get all of the other viewpoints, but let's start shooting at the right target, because I don't care how great a marksman you are. If you're shooting at the wrong target, you will not win the contest. So you have to hit the target that is in the game. And we deal with a lot of other things, but we will not deal with ourselves. Where is this stuff? When we talk about, when that woman says, do your research, whose research? Where has this research been vetted? How do we even know that this research is true? It's like, I met one of the top guys who was publicizing Ebonics, and he was talking and he was holding court, and somebody, my wife actually introduced me to him, and he said, "What do you think about what I say? You with the NAACP, and what do you think about what I say?" I said, "Well, I want to know, why is it that everybody's selling the idea that we can't learn because we have a genetic difference? How come all of the professors that are selling that speak the King's English perfectly? How come, is there a difference between you and the guy in the street? What makes you different to where you could get a PhD and he can't get out of high school? What is that? Why you don't have that genetic defect?" We got to start questioning where all of our information is coming from, so that we know that we're addressing the right issue and dealing with and shooting at the right target.
I agree with that part. I tell you, that's what we need to do. And again, everyone, you are listening to Aim to Purpose Spiritual Empowerment Hour. I'm your host, Louise Hicks. I have here with my guest, Minister Fred Shaw Jr. and LilyBell. And we are discussing today part 4 of Black Love, Gender War by Design and Conquer Pill. And when I said pill, it's like some of us have taken a pill because we have taken the bait. And the primary topic of this subject matter is divine love and unity. And that's what we need as Black people. And I agree that we need to take accountability and responsibility, and we have to recognize and realize, because you were saying about the women that go to college, more Black women go to college, which is true, and probably finish college. And Black women, we do hear Black women saying, "I don't need a man." But where did that come from? My perspective is it came from the feminist movement headed by Gloria Steinem, if I'm saying her name correctly. And that was not our fight. And Black women, in fact, one Black woman, I believe, if I remember correctly, I don't remember her name, wrote a book that she was led down the rabbit hole, and she was upset about it because Black women were used, from my perspective. And I didn't join that movement, by the way, because I saw what was coming of it, because that was not our fight. Black women did not have the same plight as privileged white women, because we know we live in a racist, privileged white society, and that's a fact. It's been proven. And that is not to throw any shade at any white people, because if you are a righteous-minded person, you can accept the fact that you have privileges over Black people. You haven't been out there water hosed and your church is bombed and all of these atrocities that went on in slavery as a result. Black women, and I talk about this in my part 3, how Black women were treated by this butcher gynecologist who is supposed to be called the father of gynecology. What's his name? I have it written down here. Sims. That's it. Thank you. Sims. S-I-M-S. Sims. Marion, I think it's T. Marion Sims, if I remember his name correctly, who was doing all kind of experiments using Black women, and with excruciating pain. And a lot of you don't have a clue what Black women have gone through. And then this psychiatrist by the name of Samuels, who said Black people have drapetomania because they ran away. And that's supposed to be a mental illness for you running away from slavery. I mean, Black people have gone through so much trauma and never, most of them haven't had healing. Even to this day, Black people are still treated worse than anybody on the planet. And Black women, out of all females, are treated the worst. And a lot of this stuff is taught in the homes by white supremacists who teach their children, because I've experienced it. And I've spoken about that in others. And in order, for time's sake, I'm going to, as LilyBell says, yield, and then we're going to come back to Minister Shaw. But I just wanted to get that in because of Black women using that phrase. A lot of that has to do with generational trauma from the experiences of Black women and saying, I don't need a man, because they were taught. And I'll talk about that a little bit more about the welfare system, what white people did to get the Black man out of the home and make the woman the leaders in the home in order to emasculate the Black man. And we shouldn't be thinking like that, because we should be working as a team, no matter who makes the most money in the family. And that's where Black women got to recognize and realize we are the helpmate to our significant other, husband, or whomever it is. So go ahead, LilyBell. But I just wanted to get that in.
Okay, well, since you're going to talk about the welfare system later on, that's one of the things I was going to mention. But since
Go
you're going to
ahead and mention it. Say what you want to say about it.
Well, we're going to say this first, and then maybe I'll come back, because I know you were saying that, we have with time constricted and stuff and all. So
If we go a little over the time, that's okay.
Okay, well, first of all, I want to respond to something when Minister Shaw was talking, when he was talking about Black women saying that they don't need a man and everything like that. And that's a contention for me as well. But why are they saying that? If you look at a lot of these homes and stuff, see, that's why I'm saying, my thing is, if you treat your cause, you find your cure. So many times we want to put band-aids and cotton balls and stuff. If you walk into the room and you see that my arm is bleeding, you can put as many bandages around my arm as possible. But if you don't ever treat the cause of that bleeding, pretty soon the bandages are going to become saturated. So these issues and stuff, let's look at possible cause. And that's why I like that both of you guys are talking about the
PTSS, post-traumatic slave syndrome.
Yeah, so I think that because finally we're getting to the bottom of this, but as far as like women saying they don't need men, so many times what has happened is the men have not come up to snuff. That one time people would say, well, a piece of man is better than no man. Well, these women now said, oh no, I'm not accepting a piece of man. Give me no man. So one of the issues I feel we need to start working on is each other. That's why I was talking about the preparation for the bride. How do we work on each other to become what we can be? Because one of the most powerful forces on earth is the unity of Black people, particularly a Black man and a Black woman. I mean, you talking about nuclear power? That's nuclear power. That's why it's designed to keep us apart. Yes. And I was going to talk about one other point, then I yield. Well, 2 points, I'm sorry. When Minister Shaw was talking about what Malcolm X had said, that only a fool would let their oppressor educate their children. Well, we've been so conditioned to feel like our validation comes from anybody except us. So even though we know, we will complain about the treatment our children are getting, we will complain about the lack of education, but we will still send them there. And I got this podcast I did called The Fallout of the Civil Rights Movement. And I'm not going to talk about that too much. I just want to mention that. And a lot of what we're seeing is also a fallout of the Civil Rights Movement. And my other point I was going to make is if we start just pointing out the fallacies of it all. You're saying our children can't learn. Well, what about the private school children? I know here in Macon, Bibb County, Georgia, this lady had a private school. She went up to 8th grade. Every child in that private school, then there were Black children taught by Black people. Every child in that private school excelled, went on to college and did great. Another private school worked with the primary. These people in 2nd grade performing sometime on a 6th and 7th grade level. So I think instead of just trying to convince these people or convince ourselves, because to be honest, what they think and say, oh, too much care. But anyway, if we could just start doing that, every time we hear something like that, start pointing out why this can't be true. It's just why it just can't be true. Because if we couldn't learn, private school would make a difference. Okay, now I come back later. I hear. Thank you.
Okay, well, sounds what you said is so true because I went to in the 50s and the 60s. In fact, we were better off prior to civil rights as a collective group of Black people from my perspective and my environment and how I grew up in an all Black community, all Black teachers, all Black schools. And that's why I advocate that we need our own teachers to teach our children because it's going to be whitewashed in the public school system. Look what they're doing down in Florida. They don't even want the kids to learn about slavery, and that's a part of history, but you don't hide anybody else's. Holocaust didn't even happen here on American soil. And you don't tell the Jewish people, oh, you can't talk about that now. Don't tell the truth. Some of these people are even telling them to tell the kids lies. And I'm going to be doing a video on that too, because it's ridiculous how these schools want to lie to these children because, I mean, that's your shame what your forefathers did. And you're still perpetuating it and you're still carrying it on because if you weren't, we wouldn't be sitting here discussing this divide and conquer issue with Black men and women right now because we know where that came from, the cause of it. The cause of it stemmed right from post-traumatic slave syndrome of what happened to Black people and how they were separated in the welfare system. And I'll be doing something more on that too, because I experienced it and I know what they did to take the fathers out of the home. Most homes back in the 50s and 60s had two parents in it, in spite of what Al Sharpton, and I'm going to be doing a video on that, in spite of what he said, and he's a baby boomer and he's lying. So I'm going to call it for what it is, because there were more Black families together back in the 50s and 60s than there are now. And that's a fact. So anyhow, go ahead, Minister Shaw. Sorry about that. Didn't
No,
mean to
I
keep you
want
so
to.
long.
No, I want to agree with you on that because this thing about the Black family. Because I know growing up, and I'm not much off of Al Sharpton's age. Almost every household on my block had both parents,
Yes.
or the parent and a stepfather or stepmother. So it was two parents in most. If it was 15 block houses, there was two parents and 12 of them.
Yes.
So I agree with you wholehearted on that. Um, the the thing I wanted to bring up when you were talking about Samuel Cartwright and how he came up with the word drapetomania, and that meant runaway slave, a crazy runaway slave. And mental illness then was if we back talked, if we were slow in working, if we, all of those were signs. Benjamin Rush, the father of psychiatry, came up with a word called negritude. It said that
Yes.
Black people's skin was dark because we had a disease that was akin to leprosy, and that white people should stay away from us. And the only way to know if they were cured physically or mentally was if they turned white. We have had a conditioning. We try to find, the Black man is undereducated, and that's the problem. The Black woman fusses too much, and that's the problem. And we keep hitting all of these things and don't realize there is a root problem that causes all of this. That systemically work. Right now, the Black community is wrapped all up in mental health.
Yes.
We're one of our original enemies. Far worse to us than the police. But we don't get to see that because that's not what is planned for us to see. We're supposed to see what they want us to see, and we fight all of these things. If you don't handle education, you'll never handle the Black person. We'll never be able to achieve, and he has to be able to think and educate on his own like he used to do. When we grow up thinking that Nat Turner was a bad man, he killed, instead of seeing him as a freedom fighter or a rebel for his people, we took on somebody else's mindset. The Black woman, and every woman, to be truthful, is truly the mind of the man. We listen to the Bible studies, but we never understand what is really going on. Why did the serpent go to Eve? Oh, he went to Eve because she was the weaker sex. Lie. He went to Eve because she was the smarter one. And if he could get Eve to agree, Adam would do it without question. What did Adam say? Nobody looks at this Bible in depth like this. When God asked him, what did Adam say? The woman thou gavest me. Because he didn't know why he did it. He just ate because she told him to. Now, we as Black men, we have to know our role. We are the protector, and we were supposed to be the provider, but we couldn't get the employment. We couldn't get the work. So we didn't get to fulfill our full role as a people. So she couldn't stay home with the children like it was designed for her to do, because they wouldn't hire the Black man, but they would hire the Black woman. So then he became a dependent. And then when she started treating him as a dependent, he started resenting her. And so we get the bickering and the fighting and stuff like that. If you find a household where a man is a man, it doesn't matter how much money he makes.
That's right.
I would bet you my wife makes 3 times as much as I make, and I work, and I could live on my own. But she makes at least 3 times more money than me. We ain't never had a money argument. But you got to, your value has to be in each other. It can't be in these things. It can't be in, oh, she drives a Mercedes and I drive a Chevy, and therefore you're not a man. We got to grow up. All you should want from a man is him to be able, if he can, to provide, but more, he is to be the protector. The man is the protector, like the church is supposed to protect the community. And when those two things fail, then the woman finds herself unprotected out there. And when you're unprotected, you could be easy prey for anybody. And then people come to you who are not from you, who tell you what your problem is, and then you run with that, and that further divides the community and things. This is not just a one-show type thing. We have to get into the systemicness of this thing.
Yeah.
See, I mean, and not that all the other theories are wrong. I'm just telling you where we're really falling short. Where is the PTA mothers that used to be out there like my mother protesting when the schools were not providing for the kids? Where is that? Why are we allowing mental health to give all of our kids these labels? He's all mentally challenged. He has attention deficit disorder. Why are we doing that when I sat and took the worst kids in probation, was able to educate them? Why? Because we listening to the narrative instead of fending for ourselves. As long as let me just say this, responsibility is the absolute denial of any power greater than yourself. And we exclude God from that conversation. I'm not, if everything is the white man's fault, then I'm saying that the white man is more powerful than me and my God together.
You're right.
Otherwise, quit blaming him and start seeing what I can do for myself.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what will store our power. When the men start going snatching these little boys and taking them home and say, your son is out here doing this and that, and I saw him playing with a gun and stuff like that, and turn him over to his daddy. We got to get the daddies back in the home.
Absolutely.
That's what kept
Right.
me out of prison, is a
Oh, yeah.
father.
Absolutely. We got to get the
So,
fathers back in the home.
and we got to quit playing this game where the only power he got is his prowess in the bed. That's the only power he got. He ain't got no job. Most unemployed people, we hear all the sisters talk about what's happened to the Black woman, and a man is the most uneducated and most underemployed of everybody, and we don't mention him.
We got to have some real talk like what we're doing. And we can certainly come back with a part 2 to part 4, a part B to part 4, however you want to call it, because this is okay. What about you, LilyBell? Because I'm all for it, because some of these things need to be brought out realistically, because Dr. Claude Anderson brings it out so clearly. And I talk about that in part 3, where all of these inappropriate behaviors are in the Black community that's holding us back. And guess what? A lot of it comes from social media, the hip hop rappers, all of that cause it. And why are they doing that? The root cause of it. We need healing. We need accountability. We need responsibility, like what you just said. We got to have all of that, because we have a lot of inappropriate behaviors. And as Dr. Claude Anderson brings that out too, about the symptoms. These are symptoms within the Black community that we have to deal with, but it comes from systemic racism and other people telling us our narrative rather than us taking that time out to go to these schools, talk to these teachers. When I was a kid growing up, we went to all Black school, like I said. The teachers would come to the home, the parents would go to the teachers. It was a partnership, a real partnership. But when integration came about, I had a teacher. We were classmates, grew up, went to high school together, junior high, and all of this, graduated together, became a teacher in Louisiana, where I was born. And she said, based on her perspective, and I agree with, in her experience from going to an all Black school, once integration came about, that was our downfall with our children, because we are allowing people to educate our children and lead our children down the rabbit hole. And it's up to us as parents to take responsibility and accountability to teach our children. That's why I talk about unity and building together as a community. We need our own educational institutions. We need our own medical institutions, because Black people are treated subhuman in some of these medical facilities. I mean, I can go into that when we do the next episode. I had to write a letter to Louisiana about how a doctor was treating my mother, who was probably my age back then, maybe 70 something or in her 60s, but they look and they think they can get away with this stuff. And we got to start talking about it. Uh, we got to point it out when it's happening and let other people know, you don't tell my narrative because you don't know what you're talking about. And the ones that are out here doing it and catering it to these people, like the Democratic Party with Al Sharpton lying and going on about what happened during Jim Crow era, that's a lie. And I'm so glad you talked about Benjamin Rush, who's so-called father of psychiatry, who was back in 1700s, I guess, the mid 1700s or so forth. And the doctor that I mentioned about, James Marion Sims, who was doing all these experiments on Black women without any anesthesia. And they had anesthesia back, but they wouldn't give it to Black women because they're saying, oh, Black women they can stay in pain. And that's a lie. And that lie has been perpetuated. And we got to start educating our young people, because these people out here, just because you got a PhD, that does not mean that you are knowledgeable, because you've been taught in a system that's there to oppress you and keep you uneducated and allow you to be taught what they want you to teach your children, to keep you as an underclass. And I'm one to bring it all forward. And this is not to pour, like I said, shade on anybody, because no matter what ethnicity you are, if you are of righteous mind, you are willing to accept facts. And I don't sugarcoat. That's not me. And James Sim, this father, so-called, as LilyBell and I were discussing, he was a butcher to Black women. And it's so horrible. This man was born 1813, James Sims, and died in 1883. So we're talking about even this was during slavery when he was doing this stuff to Black women, or maybe shortly after. And these were enslaved women that he did it to. And a lot of you may be familiar with the woman at the table, on the table, with these white doctors surrounding her, and they are just butchering these Black women. And that's what frustrates me when I hear the Gen X's, Gen Z's, Gen Y's, I mean, not Y's, Gen X's, Z's, and millennials out here peddling stuff on social media that's toxic to our community. And it's not uplifting, not beneficial. If you're not going to share any information that's beneficial, why are you on here? Are you on here just to make some money to the detriment of your community, which is sad, really sad. So go ahead, LilyBell.
Okay, well, I had several things here I want to mention. But since you mentioned about the Gen X's and stuff, we can't expect these children to know what we haven't taught them. See, and I go back to, you treat your cause, you find your cure. When you look at these children and stuff, what have we taught them? And we're going to have to take responsibility. I'm a boomer, and we have to take responsibility. We neglected our children to the point they came up with the term latchkey. Latchkey kids came about during the boom. You see what I'm saying? So, and we were so busy and stuff. It's like they started all these commercials about looking out for number one and all this kind of stuff. So we was in the frame of mind where, if I want to do this, I don't care who would. I'm sorry, I was sucking on a ginger. I'm sorry about that, y'all. Did I say
that's okay?
I am so sorry. So until we take responsibility and go back, I have this thing that I call Acknowledgement Day. We need to go back to these children and ask these children to acknowledge us. And what I mean by that is talk to them and tell them. And I'm gonna give an example. I work with children, and I work with the young ladies, but for some reason I always end up in a kettle where it's a bunch of boys. Men come and get me to help them work with boys. And one thing I always tell them is this: when somebody comes to talk to you, you listen. Now, because if I'm coming to you, running you down, trying to lord myself up over you and stuff, try your best to ease away from me. But if I'm coming talking to you from my experience, that don't mean I'm going to tell you everything I've done, because your little minds couldn't stand it. Did I say that out loud? But anyway, I'm going to tell you. I'm not going to tell, but I'll let them know you're not doing anything that I didn't do. All this stuff these children doing and stuff, we did the same thing. Some of the consequences are different. When did you know when you were growing up, when two kindergartens got to fighting, that the police came and hauled them away? It's nothing unusual about two kindergartners fighting. It's nothing unusual about a young girl when they're boys, a teenage girl, when boys around, they giggle. And they giggle, and what do they, boy, you talking about talking loud? For some reason, boys and a teenage girl, the voice get lifted up, But I'm just saying, these are things we have to let these children know, instead of trying to present ourselves as being these perfect people. And another point I was going to mention, um, when we were talking about the education and everything, so many times this has been my experience in dealing with people, and not like you say, not everybody, but that, and I'm an educator, so you know I'm for education, but it's the type of education, who's doing the educating. But
Right.
sometimes the higher up we go in this system, the less use we are to our people. Let me say
Mhm.
that again. And I'm not saying all of us, y'all understand that, because Dr. Claude Anderson
Right.
is a prime example of not all of us. But you'll find, and so many of us, when we get to a certain level, we have been so indoctrinated until we
Come
just,
on now.
so we're just no good for the people. So I
Mhm.
agree with what you were saying. Let's not get so caught up on because somebody has a PhD.
That's right.
And my last point before I yield, what I would like to happen, because you keep referencing the show number 3, I think we need to take that show and we need to deconstruct that show, because it seems like to me what you're saying is so much meat in number 3. Now, number 4, we're doing fine with number 4, don't get me wrong, but that's just the way I look at it. So if you're so inclined, and Dr. Frederick Shaw, excuse me, Minister Frederick Shaw, Minister Dr. the smiling brother, I put it that way. If you're so inclined, I would like for us to whenever we have time, to go back and deconstruct number 3. I yield.
That's sounds like a plan to me, because that's where I'm talking about the treatment of Black women, and not just back then, because it's still happening now. Minister Shaw and I had a show about it, about this psychiatrist in 2022 was suspended from Columbia University because of his comments about a dark-skinned woman. And he was the chair of Columbia University by the name of Jeffrey A. Lieberman. And he made these remarks about whether a work of art or freak of nature, she's a beautiful sight to behold, on Twitter at the time. I think it was still Twitter, but now it's X, about this Black woman. And oh, it was ridiculous, because what he was saying is dark skin is a disease. She must have come out as a freak of nature, and you can look that up. Remember, Minister Shaw, when we did that on about the Jeffrey Lieberman, this psychiatrist, high-powered psychiatrist, and that's a statement he made. And this is what's wrong with our system. We need to start calling these people out. And a lot of us aren't doing it because we're listening to a lot of this foolishness and food talk, as my grandmother would call it, that's toxic to our community, as opposed to uplifting and benefiting. And I would like to say, stop bashing. And Dr. Hanson, that inspired me to do this, because he was interviewing with this young lady, and I believe both of them, they may be Gen Xers or millennials. My perspective, I don't know whether they're bringing out about the post-traumatic slave syndrome, but if they're not, we have to have a dialogue and better communication on what we are educating our young people on. Like you said, LilyBell, we got to educate them, because if they don't know, I don't care what kind of degree you got, PhD, master's, or whatever. If you're out here spewing stuff that you have no clue about, I know, because I live some of this stuff. And even Al Sharpton, a baby boomer, like Minister Shaw said, the age is not far apart. I'm a little older than both Minister Shaw and Al Sharpton. However, I know Al Sharpton is lying, and he's lying because he wants Black people to go out here and vote for Democrats, when Democrats aren't doing and haven't done anything to elevate Black people. This Biden administration, Biden Harris, and I'm not saying that to put uh, to elevate Trump, because as far as I'm concerned, Republicans and Democrats are one snake with two heads in the barrel. And I'm going to talk about that one too. But go ahead, LilyBell, you had something else to say? And we will have a part 2, I guess, to this, if you guys are willing to come back, and we can definitely go and unpack part 3. That would be great, because it's not going to be that long, and we can talk in depth about the stuff that I talk about in part 3.
Okay, I just want to say this, and then I'm going to yield. One thing we got to understand, the only thing, and they know this, we just don't, the only thing they have going for them is their white skin, nothing else. That they don't have the fact that they are superior to us in education. We're smarter than they are. We have more rhythm than them. We run fast. We do this, we do that. All these things we do better. So what they have done, and you got to admit now, they made a religion out of it. They have taken the only thing that they could wield over us, and that was their white skin. So if we come to realize that, a lot of the hold they have on us will be gone. And I yield.
Well, I'm glad you said that because why do you think all of these athletes, when they brought, what's his name, Jackie Robinson, the Black Negro League was brilliant. I mean, they were doing their thing. I've spoken to some of them, met one or two of them I've met back way back some time ago. It's been a while. And they were doing fine. But see, the white supremacy couldn't deal with that. So look at your teams now. That's why these white women are looking to get these athletes. And what if there was black women out there that had said what they said? Oh, teach us how to understand black men so we can get us an athlete, a basketball player, a football player. Oh, some of these black men, not all of them, because there are a lot of Gen X's and uh, millennials and the other generation. They have come into an awareness and they are understanding the post-traumatic slave syndrome because they're being educated. They're doing their due diligence. They're educating themselves, and they are seeing that this divide and conquer is by design. And again, everyone, I'm Louise Hicks, the host of this podcast, Aim to Purpose Spiritual Empowerment Hour. This is part 4 of what we are discussing today, Black love, uh, Black love, gender war by design, and conquer, heal, divine love and unity. Because we got to get that divine love and unity back. Black families were together back in the 50s and 60s, and we've gone backwards since then. I am a living witness of it, being 73, because I lived there and I have the experience and the exposure of it. I lived in Louisiana, California, and now in Texas. And you cannot tell me, like some people say, oh, racism is it's in the South. That's a lie too. I experienced just as much racism out in California as I did in Louisiana, probably more so. The first time I was called a nigger by a white person to my face was in California, not in the South. To my face, I was called a nigger. And that was in California, southern sunny California. And we got to get our own institutions and educate our children. That's one of the most important things we need to do. And a lot of parents are now homeschooling their kids. I just did a podcast about that, how a lot of Black parents are taking the bull by the horn and educating their own children because they see the systemic racism that's in the public school system and even in the private school system. And I can tell you about that one too, because I have children that have gone to both. So I guess we can come to a close on this one, and we can go back to uh, podcast number 3, part 3, in whenever time frame you guys can come back, maybe next Sunday if you desire to, and we can go back to part 3 and we can put that in there, or we can finish this one, however you guys want to do. I don't know how far we got into this one here. Let me see. Let me look at it and see, because I know we didn't finish it. We got to where this gentleman here who brought this one in, the one down here at the lower left on my screen from where I'm looking. I think it's called the J. Wilson. I think, I don't want to mess up his name, but he's the one that presented this. And this was an interview with this professor at Fresno State, Hassan Johnson. And I don't know the young lady's name that's interviewing him, but I believe they all probably are either Gen Xers or millennials. a combination of both. I'm not sure. But we got into part of it.
And
We
white
went
woman,
to about
Latinas, Asians.
we went to about 3:39. So if you guys want to come back and finish this, we can. And then we can come back another time and do part 3. So I'm going to stop sharing, and we know where we stopped off at about 392, I think it was. So you want to come back and finish this, and then we can delve into number 3. And you guys can come back as a panelist so we can analyze that one, because we have to educate our people. Nobody else is going to do it. Nobody but us. And as baby boomers, I'm so happy to see us helping to lead the way, because I think a lot of these Gen Xers, because I've heard some of them say it, that are doing positive things, that is Gen Xers and the millennials and Zs, I think some of them think that baby boomers have just laid down and died and forgot everything, but we haven't. We're out here fighting, some of us right along with you, that are sharing uplifting, positive information to elevate our community to a higher level of consciousness. And again, Louise Hicks here, Aim to Purpose Spiritual Empowerment Hour. Be sure to subscribe, give it a thumbs up, leave your comments, give it a like, because we need to start listening to more upbuilding. And as I said, I'm this mad Black woman that's motivated and determined to help elevate our people to a higher level of consciousness. And go ahead, LilyBell.
Before Lily goes, I have 6:30 reservations for dinner.
Go ahead.
I have to go. So,
Okay, thank you.
but I appreciate it. And whichever you decide, I'm ready to go either way with it.
Okay, sounds good.
All
Thank you
right
so
then.
much for coming in. And
Okay.
we didn't mean to go this long, but the conversation got so good.
I,
But enjoy your
I
the
agree.
rest of your Father's Day.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right. Happy Father's Day to you, sir.
Thank you.
Well, okay, I'll just raise my hand to say, yeah, I would like to finish this and stuff, because it's so much to unpack, to deconstruct. So yes, I would love to finish up, because I made some notes all throughout the film. I mean, the podcast, and definitely that number 3, and however you want to do it, maybe we can tie it into number 4, however you want to do it. Just like Minister Shaw said, you have to hammer this, so you let us know.
Okay, well, we'll come back. I don't like starting something and not finishing it. We will come back if you guys are available next Sunday. We will finish this one up. And if we have time, which we probably won't, we will probably have to come back
It's
the
too much.
following Sunday
Yeah.
and unpack number 3. So that's the way I would like for it to go. Us to finish
Okay.
this up next Sunday. We can come in about the same time that we came in today, and the following week we can unpack what I did with number 3, part 3, because this is the kind of conversation that we need to have, and we need to dig deeper and give all these root causes of why these inappropriate behaviors
Yes.
are. And Dr. Joy DeGruy has written a book called Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome, and I have the book. I haven't had a chance to read it, but this is her book, Dr. Joy DeGruy, and I love to read, and it's called Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. And Dr. George DeGruy is a psychologist, and all of the stuff, I don't know everything that's in the book because I haven't read it, but everything that, if you look her up online, you can learn a lot. If you go to YouTube videos and just put in Dr. Joy, Joy DeGruy, D as in David, E as in Edward, G as in George, R as in Robert, U as in umbrella, Y as in you. That's Dr. Joy DeGruy. And she has so much to offer about post-traumatic slave syndrome, because all of these wars are by design. And Dr. Handsome, I wish I could have you on my show, because if you listen to this, I would love to have you to come in and speak and address what you're telling these the students in your class, particularly the Black men that you started with, and then the Black women, as you said, they were finger wagging. And for those of you who may not understand finger wagging, that has to do with, I think it started with a basketball player when they do that index finger and kind of point it to say no, or they're rejecting what you're saying or what you're doing. And it could also be a threat or something like that to someone. And Minister Shaw knows too that sometimes what your parents would say, they'd be telling you and shaking that finger. That's finger wagging. You know you're wrong. That's no, and I'm rejecting what you're doing. And it could be something that caused these women. I would be curious to say, what were they saying in the class? And what were the men? Because we know we got to start communicating and start like we got two ears and one mouth. We need to start listening to one another. And that's an issue sometimes. And this stuff is divide and conquer. As I said, when I labeled the show, Black love, all of the parts are called Black love, gender, war by design, and conquer pill. Because it's like we're on a pill, like we're taking pills here. And this particular segment part was on divine love and unity. And I always say I named it that title because I always like to say God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of love, but a power comes before love, actually, a power, love, and a sound mind. And that's in 2 Timothy 1:7. So we got to learn to flip the script so that we can stop all this bashing, because it goes both ways. Men are bashing Black women, and Black women are bashing Black women are bashing Black men, and we got to stop that. So a final thought, Lily Bell, and then we're going to close out, and we'll come back next Sunday and finish it up.
Well, no, not much of anything. I just want to once again thank you and thank Minister Short in his absence and stuff. I've been enlightened, I've been encouraged, and I've been intrigued into the third power. Be encouraged.
Thank you so much. And we will be back next Sunday, everyone. And again, I'm Louise Hicks, the host of this podcast, Aim to Purpose Spiritual Empowerment Hour. And I always tell everyone I'm this mad Black woman that's motivated and determined to help elevate and support our family, the Black family, the Black culture, to a higher level of consciousness, because that's what we need to bring us together and unify us. And when we do that, believe me, we will become a powerful, unified people. And that is what a lot of this systemic racism is all about, that fear of us coming together. That's why it's so vital that we educate our own. We must do it, everyone. It's so vital. And with that said, I always leave you with, and again, oh, happy Father's Day again to everyone. And I always leave you with, your power lies within you. Let it loose. Until next time. Thank you all for coming in. Be sure and subscribe. Leave your comments, give it a like, and thumbs up. Good night, LilyBell. Have a good evening, rest of your evening. And thank you so much for coming in and giving us your time and sharing all that positive information with us. Much appreciated and much love.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.